Super Tuesday is here. Today, people in more than a dozen states will vote in the largest single-day voting event of the primary season. Joe Biden and Donald Trump are expected to sweep their races, which could signal the end of Nikki Haley's campaign. But even if they win all of the states voting today, it still would yield them just under the minimum number of delegates needed to secure their party's nomination. We've got team coverage of the Super Tuesday contests and campaign efforts today. We're going to start with Olivia Rinaldi, who has been following the Trump campaign for us. Olivia, good to see you.
Good to see you, Nancy.
So where has Trump been spending his time and his money in the run-up to Super Tuesday, and where do we find you today?
Well, you'll find me in beautiful West Palm Beach, where tonight Donald Trump will be holding a watch party at his home in Mar-a-Lago. And you're right, the Trump campaign is expecting a full sweep of all 15 states that Republicans are competing in today. But he's spending a lot of time and resources in North Carolina and Virginia. Those are two states that Donald Trump wants to win in 2024. Now, I do want to note, he won North Carolina in 2020 and 2016, but he didn't win Virginia in either of those races. And in fact, a Republican hasn't won Virginia since 2004 in the George Bush election. But Trump has his sights on that state. He thinks he can do that. He thinks he can pull that off. So over the weekend, we saw him hold a rally in Richmond, Virginia, after spending some time in Greensboro, North Carolina, really trying to pump up the vote and get voters to show up for him there. And I do want to note that Virginia is an open primary. That means that Democrats, independents, and Republicans can vote in that primary. So what I'll be watching today is really where that independent vote goes for. Virginia Republicans are fickle. Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican, won the nomination and went on to win the governor's race in 2021 by keeping Donald Trump at bay, not entirely welcoming him in. So will Virginia Republicans welcome Donald Trump in again, and how will independents play in that race are something that I am watching very, very closely today.
Yeah, independence will be key, especially when it comes to Nikki Haley's future. Obviously, Trump would love to turn his attention to the general election, but she's still in the race for now. So what's his approach been to her and her voters recently?
His approach to Nikki Haley has been out of sight, out of mind. He didn't even mention her, actually, in the South Carolina primary victory party that he held. He barely mentioned her in Virginia. He said the former governor of South Carolina, not even giving her a name. And I asked the Trump administration official, or the Trump campaign official, rather, about that. And I said, why not call for her to drop out? And they said she's just largely insignificant to them anyways. So really casting her off. And then another point I want to make is that Lara Trump, Trump's daughter-in-law, who's now going to, who he tapped to lead the RNC, that vote's happening later in the week. She said that if you're voting for Nikki Haley or you're part of that side of the party, we don't want you anyways. That's a complete schism that is happening in the Republican Party. So it's something to watch there, whether or not he can really, if he's pivoting to the general election, carry on without that part of the Republican Party. It's kind of an all-hands effort to unify right now, and that is a faction he's going to need if he's going to prevail in the general election.
Interesting approach from Lara Trump, given that they will need those Nikki Haley voters in the fall if they want to be victorious. Olivia Rinaldi, thank you so much. Let's bring in now CBS News campaign reporter Navarro. He's reporting from Minnesota, which is one of the many states where people are heading to the polls. And Aaron, Minnesota is key because it's one of several states today where Democratic voters can essentially cast a protest vote to send President Biden a message. Explain the purpose of the uncommitted vote that's happening today and where else we might see it.
Hello, Nancy, from Minneapolis. This protest vote, the uncommitted vote, or something along those lines, it kind of depends, the semantics differ from state to state, has been primarily used this cycle as a way for voters to protest how President Biden and the administration have responded to the Israel-Hamas war, to Israeli strikes in Gaza. And we saw a surprising amount of uncommitted ballots turn out in Michigan last week, and we're seeing that carry on over in these Super Tuesday states. candidates, though, from talking to organizers, it's a much more compressed timeline. They're not expecting to get to Michigan levels. But here in Minnesota, where there is a heavy Somali population, there is some hope that they can surpass expectations going in. I talked to one organizer for Uncommitted Minnesota yesterday about the reason for this vote and if she's afraid that voters will stay home in November.
I think that this is a reminder to the president where the pulse is with his constituents. And I think this is another reminder, again, that this is not, his legacy should not be as Genocide Joe. I don't think anyone wants to leave their presidency with that legacy. Who wants to leave with a moniker like Genocide Joe? Nobody. And this is in this moment, he can stop that. He can make a single call to Netanyahu and say, enough is enough.
Now, other states that the uncommitted or something along those lines is on the ballot that are going to be worth watching tonight are Massachusetts, Colorado, North Carolina, and in Virginia, where organizers have told people looking to cast that protest vote to instead vote for Marianne Williamson, the long shot challenger to Mr. Biden.
Now, that's so interesting. Aaron, in Michigan, there were more than 100,000 protest votes against President Biden, but he still obviously won the state. Is the Biden campaign doing anything in Minnesota or any of these other states to try to discourage Democrats from voting uncommitted?
Well, the short answer is no. They have not really been engaging with it, kind of watching carefully from the sidelines. The Biden campaign told me that this is an issue that they think that these organizers and activists and the president and the Vice President Kamala Harris do have in common, and that they want the war to stop. They want a long-lasting peace. It's just these protest votes are more to put pressure on Biden to get there sooner. But the Biden campaign does tell me that they think while this issue is animating young voters, which will be crucial for their turnout in November, they believe that younger voters will be animated by other issues as well going into November.
Interesting. We know you'll be watching it. Aaron Navarro in Minneapolis, thank you.